Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here today. We're about to explore an important aspect of Islamic charity, Zakat and its 8 categories of recipients. This is the first slide, and it sets the stage for our discussion. We'll look at how Zakat is distributed, with 1/8 allocated to each of these 8 groups. Over the course of this presentation, we'll delve into each category, from the poor and needy to those fighting in the cause of Allah. So, let's get started and deepen our understanding of this vital part of our faith. Today, we're focusing on the first category in the 8 categories of Zakat, the poor. So, who exactly are the poor? Essentially, they are individuals who do not have enough resources to support themselves adequately. This means they might have some wealth, but it's not enough to sustain them for their expected lifespan, considering their remaining years. To put it simply, if someone needs 10 dirhams a day for their basic needs, but when we divide what they have by their remaining years, it amounts to 4 dirhams or less per day, then they are considered poor. This insufficient amount doesn't cover essentials like food, clothing, housing, and other basic necessities, but it's also not so little that it's considered extreme penury. It's important to note that this definition also includes those who are responsible for supporting others, like family members, if they themselves lack enough resources. For example, if a mechanic needs tools or a scholar needs books to earn a living but doesn't have them, that doesn't count as part of their money. Furthermore, being poor isn't just about lacking wealth. It also involves being unable to work in a suitable profession, meaning a job that fits their health, social standing, and skills. If someone is physically or socially capable of earning a proper income but can't find employment, they are also included in this category. Even someone who is used to a noble or respectable profession but isn't accustomed to physical labor and can't find work would be considered poor. So, it's not just about wealth, but also about the ability to earn and support oneself in a suitable manner. This understanding helps us recognize the importance of Zakat in supporting those who are truly in need, ensuring fairness and social balance within our communities. Now, let's consider the perspective of someone who is able to earn a living, but chooses not to, because their focus is on attaining knowledge of sacred law. According to Nawawi, if earning a living at a suitable job would prevent them from gaining this knowledge, then it is permissible for them to take Zakat. This is because acquiring knowledge of sacred law is considered a communal obligation, and serving this purpose can justify receiving Zakat. However, if someone can earn a living but chooses not to, and that prevents them from acquiring knowledge, Zakat would not be lawful for them. Darimi describes 3 different positions regarding someone engaged in acquiring religious knowledge. 1, that they deserve charity even if they are able to earn. 2, that they do not deserve it. And 3, that an outstanding student who is expected to benefit the community through their understanding of sacred law does deserve charity, whereas others do not. Importantly, if a person's religious devotions keep them too busy to work, they are not considered poor. This highlights that dedication to religious study or practice can be viewed differently from economic need. And that brings us to Shafi's classification of 8 categories of Zakat recipients, which we'll explore next, linking these concepts to the broader theme of responsibility and community support in Islamic teachings. Today, I want to highlight some important points about the eligibility criteria for Zakat. In the past, someone was considered eligible if they were separated from their money by at least 81 kilometers. But nowadays, it's more accurate to think of it in terms of acknowledged distance. If a person's money is considered absent or non-existent in common understanding, then their poverty continues until the money is present again. Essentially, if the money is not physically or practically accessible, it's treated as if it doesn't exist for Zakat purposes. Similarly, if someone owes money on a debt that isn't due yet and they don't have any other resources, they are still eligible for Zakat at the time of distribution, employing Zakat to help them until the debt becomes due. Another key point is about those whose needs are already met by others who are obliged to support them, like their husbands or family members. In such cases, they are not eligible for Zakat because their poverty isn't considered ongoing. However, it is permissible for a third party to give zakat to a dependent in certain situations, such as travelers in need or people whose hearts are to be reconciled. Since these categories fall outside of the typical poor classification, but still benefit from zakat support. Understanding these nuances helps us see how zakat eligibility is carefully distinguished based on the person's financial situation and relationships. This aligns with our broader goal of ensuring zakat reaches those truly in need. Today, I will talk about the second category of people who are eligible to receive zakat, which is those who are short of money. This means individuals who have some funds to meet their needs, but not enough, like if they need 5 dirhams, but only have 3 or 4. The important point here is that the considerations we discussed for the poor also apply to these people. For example, if someone cannot earn a living through work that suits them, perhaps due to a lack of opportunity or because they are engaged in seeking sacred law knowledge, they are eligible to receive zakat. Similarly, if they can work but are prevented from doing so because of extra devotions, then they may not receive zakat. Now, when it comes to what can be given, if a person is short of money but has a trade or profession, they should be provided with the necessary tools or materials to help them earn a living, like a carpenter receiving tools or a merchant getting property to trade. The amount given depends on the specific trade, whether they are a jeweler, a clothier, or a grocer. In cases where the individual cannot work at all, whether due to age, illness, or other reasons, they should be given enough zakat to cover their needs from now until the end of their expected lifespan, based on the local average. Alternatively, some scholars suggest giving enough for just 1 year. The key takeaway here is that zakat is meant to support those who are genuinely in need, whether through lack of resources or inability to work, ensuring their basic needs are met. Now, let's look at some important guidelines regarding the distribution of zakat funds, as outlined in this slide. These measures become obligatory when there are abundant zakat funds available. In such cases, whether the imam is the one distributing or a property owner is handling it, the full measures should be followed. However, if the available zakat funds are limited, meaning the amount distributed isn't enough to support the poor person for their probable life expectancy, or even for a year, then the distribution is done more simply. In this case, the funds are divided equally among the 8 categories, with an 1/8 allocated to each. Here, we see the practical application of the principles, ensuring fairness and adequacy when funds are plentiful, but also maintaining just distribution when resources are scarce. This approach aligns with the broader theme of responsible zakat management, balancing obligation with compassion. Now, let's talk about the third category of zakat recipients, which are the zakat workers. These are the agents dispatched by the imam to handle various tasks related to zakat collection and distribution. Among them, you'll find the person collecting the zakat, the clerk who records what the owners give, the individual who matches payees to recipients, and the person responsible for distributing the zakat to those in need. It's important to note that zakat workers are entitled to receive an 1/8, or 12.5%, of the zakat funds. But here's an interesting point. If this amount exceeds what it would cost to hire someone to do their job, then the excess is returned and distributed among the other categories of recipients. Conversely, if the cost of hiring someone is higher than the zakat worker's share, then enough is taken from the zakat funds to cover that difference. This process applies only when the imam, or caliph, is personally distributing the zakat and hasn't allocated a specific fee for the zakat workers from the Muslim Public Fund, known as Bait al-Mal. If, on the other hand, the property owner is distributing the zakat themselves, or if the imam has already set aside a fee for the workers from the common fund, then the zakat funds are divided solely among the other categories of recipients. Understanding this distinction is key to grasping how zakat is managed and ensuring that the distribution remains fair and in accordance with Islamic guidelines. Now, let's look at the fourth category of those to be given zakat, which is those whose hearts are to be reconciled. If these individuals are non-Muslims, they should not be given zakat because zakat is only for Muslims. However, if they are Muslims, then they can receive it. The purpose here is to strengthen their faith, increase their certainty, or support recent converts who might still feel alienated from their families or communities. This category includes key figures in a community who may not yet have strong Islamic intentions. Perhaps they are weak in their faith, but whose hearts we hope to open through generous support. It also includes leaders of communities that collect zakat on our behalf from nearby Muslims who might refuse to pay or who are fighting against us at significant expense and effort. In essence, these individuals are important because helping to reconcile their hearts can lead to greater unity, stronger faith, and better cooperation in the larger Islamic community. This approach aligns with the broader goal of zakat, to foster social harmony and strengthen the bonds of faith among all members. Now, moving on to the fifth category in Shafi's 8 categories of zakat, which is quite a unique one, those who are purchasing their freedom. These are individuals who are essentially slaves, but are in the process of buying their own liberation from their owners. The key point here is that they are given enough resources or funds to do so, provided they do not already have the means to free themselves. This category highlights how zakat can be used as a means of emancipation, helping people break free from slavery or bondage, whether literal or metaphorical. It underscores the broader theme of zakat as a tool for social justice and human dignity, ensuring that even those in difficult circumstances have a chance to regain their freedom. So, in the context of our overall discussion, this category reminds us that zakat isn't just about charity in the conventional sense, but also about empowering individuals to improve their lives and attain independence. Today, I want to talk about the 6th category of those who are entitled to zakat, which is those in debt. This is a nuanced topic because there are 3 different types of debts to consider. First, there is a person who incurs debts to settle trouble involving bloodshed or property. For example, if there's been a killing and the killer is unknown, or if there's a dispute over property, and the person bears the expense to settle the matter, then even if he is wealthy, he still qualifies for zakat. This highlights how zakat supports those who are involved in resolving serious conflicts, not just those in financial need. Second, we have individuals who incur debts to support themselves or their dependents. If they are poor, they are eligible for zakat, but if they are wealthy, then they are not. This makes sense because zakat aims to assist those genuinely in need. Third, there's an interesting case that the author doesn't explicitly mention, but is important. Imagine R guarantees Q will pay P what Q owes him. If R finds that neither he nor Q can pay, then R is eligible for zakat. This is because R has gone into debt to guarantee Q's debt, so in a way, he's bearing a financial burden for someone else. Even if his original motive wasn't charity but a form of guarantee, he's still deserving of zakat. Understanding these distinctions helps us see how zakat encompasses various circumstances of debt, always aiming to assist those in genuine need or those caught in difficult financial situations. This fits into the broader theme of zakat as a means of social support and justice. Now, let's talk about the 7th category of those fighting for Allah. These are individuals engaged in Islamic military operations, but they don't receive a salary listed in the official army roster. Essentially, they are volunteers for jihad who serve without direct remuneration. However, they are provided with enough resources to support their efforts. This includes weapons, mounts, clothing, and expenses for their journey, covering the round trip and the duration of their stay, even if it's extended. It's important to note that the guidelines don't explicitly mention support for their families during this period, but it seems clear that their families should also be taken care of financially. This category highlights the concept that supporting those who fight for Allah is a form of charity, and it aligns with the broader principles of zakat. In the context of the overall theme, it emphasizes the importance of supporting all those involved in the cause, whether through direct financial aid or provisions for their needs. This ensures their efforts are sustained and that their sacrifices are recognized appropriately. Now, let's discuss the 8th category of zakat, which is the traveler needing money. This refers to someone who is passing through our community, say, through a town in Muslim lands where zakat is collected, or someone whose journey isn't for disobedience to Allah. The key point here is that if such a person is in need, we are obliged to help them. We should provide enough to cover their personal expenses and transportation costs. This applies even if they have money back home. Their immediate needs take precedence. The idea is to support fellow Muslims in times of travel and hardship, recognizing their situation and offering assistance without delay. Connecting this to the overall theme, it emphasizes the importance of caring for all categories of those entitled to zakat, ensuring no one suffers due to their circumstances, especially during travel when they might be more vulnerable. It reminds us that zakat isn't just about charity, but about fulfilling our duty to support and uplift our community in all situations. Now, let's discuss the key points about paying zakat according to the Shafi school of thought. If a person qualifies as a member of more than one of the 8 eligible categories, they are only to receive zakat for one of those categories. This helps prevent double dipping and ensures fairness. When zakat is collected within a town, it must be given to the recipients present there. It is actually unlawful and invalid to distribute zakat to recipients outside the town if the eligible categories are already represented locally. This is because zakat is meant to support those in need within the community where the property owner resides. However, there are some exceptions. If the imam or caliph is distributing the zakat, he has the authority to give it to recipients in different places, not just locally. Additionally, if the property owner's wealth is in a desert area, or if there are no eligible recipients in their town, then zakat should be distributed in the nearest town. This ensures that the zakat reaches those who are deserving, even if they are not in the immediate vicinity. Overall, the focus is on fairness, local distribution, and the authority of leadership to extend aid beyond local boundaries when necessary. Let's talk about how zakat should be distributed among different categories of recipients. Each category should ideally receive an equal share, which is 1/8 of the total zakat. However, there's flexibility within each category, meaning you can give more or less to individual recipients within that category. The exception is zakat workers, who should receive only their due wage. Now, if a particular category doesn't exist in your town, say there are no poor or needy in that category, then that 1/8 is redistributed among the remaining categories. In such cases, each of those categories gets 1/7 instead. And if 2 categories are absent, the remaining categories share 1/6 of the zakat, and so on. Essentially, if only one category exists, then all the zakat goes to that single group. It's also important to remember that when distributing zakat, if the recipients are a limited and known number, say, a specific, small group, then you must give zakat to every single individual in that group. This applies whether you are the owner distributing directly or the imam distributing on behalf of the owner, especially if the funds are plentiful enough to include everyone. When the number of recipients isn't limited or known, then you don't have to give to everyone, but there is a minimum. For each category, at least 3 people should receive zakat, except for zakat workers, where even just one person is sufficient. This ensures fairness and proper distribution across the board. So, the key points to keep in mind are the proportional shares based on the number of categories, the importance of giving to every individual when the number is limited and known, and the minimum distribution requirements when the recipients are numerous or unknown. All of this fits within the broader goal of ensuring zakat is distributed justly and effectively to help those in need. Let's talk about some important points regarding paying zakat to recipients. It is recommended to give zakat to relatives other than those you are obliged to support, meaning you can extend your charity beyond your immediate family responsibilities. When distributing zakat, it's advised to allocate it proportionally to the needs of the recipients. For example, if someone needs 100 dirhams and another needs 200, you should give half of what you give to the second person to the first, reflecting their different needs. However, there are some important restrictions to keep in mind. It is not permissible to give zakat to a non-Muslim or to someone you are obliged to support, such as a spouse or family member. Also, you cannot give zakat to a poor person with the expectation that they will return it to you to pay off a debt. Similarly, telling someone, "This money is zakat, so keep it," is not valid. But there are permissible exceptions. For instance, if you give zakat to a poor person who owes you money, and your intention is that they will pay you back, that is acceptable. Additionally, you can tell a poor person, "Pay me the money you owe me so I can give it to you as zakat." And the poor person can even say to their creditor, "Give me zakat so I can pay you back," although fulfilling these promises isn't obligatory. Overall, understanding these nuances helps ensure that our zakat is given correctly and in accordance with Islamic principles, reinforcing the importance of intention and proper distribution in our charitable acts.